Testing 1.
Testing 2.
Testing 3.
He knows the score.
Yeah. Good boy.
Welcome to the Testing Podcast, everyone.
Yeah, welcome. And welcome to the podcast studio. Declan Petley was the surname. Did I hear that right earlier?
It is Tetley T with a P.
Tetley T
how
with
I
a P.
spell
You can't forget that now, can you?
No.
T with a P.
Yeah.
It's how I spell it all the time when people ask.
Yeah.
Everyone goes, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Declan, thank you for joining us in the podcast studio.
Thank you for having me.
You come to share your story, and I think what's interesting is that you work in this building. You work literally upstairs. Are you from here?
Yeah, so I'm in the office up the top in the far corner. My partner actually works in this office, so I've been lucky enough to work in an office and see human beings again because I've been working remotely for a long time.
The virtual world that we live in.
Yeah. So it has actually been really cool just to even sit there in silence but interact. And, you can turn your head and go, oh, there's somebody just over there. It's not my reflection in the window or the mirror. It's been nice.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, you've come to share your stories. We're going to have a patient story podcast, which is nice. We did some of these a while back, but we haven't had many patients in
Not for a while,
in the studio, have we? So it'd be really good.
Yeah.
And so, because are you on a fertility journey at the moment still? Are you guys going through treatment, or is it still...
Well, it's come to a bit of a pause. Nothing bad. Just we've got other things going on at the moment. But we've been through a journey up until I'd say a few months ago now was where the journey kind of has taken a pause. But yeah, it's definitely been adventurous. That's
Been a
for
ride.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So you were diagnosed with Klinefelter syndrome, weren't you?
I was indeed. Yeah.
When did you get that diagnosis?
So just after I turned 30.
And
So-
you're how old now?
33. So 34 in September. So it's
Wow.
it has been. It's been an interesting one, going through everything I've gone through, and then eventually finding out, oh, there's a reason for that. That's actually weirdly enough to say. It was difficult to hear, but such a weight off my shoulders at the same time.
Yeah. It puts everything, gives something a perspective or a reason. Doesn't it? It's like, okay, that's why I'm like that, or that's why that's happened.
Yeah.
So we've spoken to Gareth Landy, didn't we? He sat in on the podcast at the fertility show, and he's a fellow XXY. Are you able to explain Klinefelters in patient terms? I mean, I bet you did a lot of Googling.
Oh yeah. As soon as I heard about XXY, I was like, oh okay. This is a bit different, being the XX and then the XY, and then I always say I was a extra special, but
That's a good way of putting it, actually. I like that.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one to kind of get my head around. But I think from the patient side, or someone here who's not in the scientific world, let's say, when you're listening to it, it's just showing that there's, I think in the main way it's having more things that could possibly go wrong with you, but then understanding the breakdown between the testosterone or lack of testosterone and how important that is and how much that brings to the human body. That was probably the biggest learning curve for me. And then how much it controls. Like, my weight gain was insane when I was younger. I would eat so much food, but nothing would happen. And it was almost like, where is all this food going?
What's happening there?
Yeah. I'd break bones, I think, all collectively, including like simple dislocations and tearing ligaments, and I ruptured my Achilles tendon and all sorts like that, but not through anything too strenuous. I probably near 20.
No way, really?
The amount of bones I've broken is incredible, and almost got to the point of, not saying you should get used to that, but I'd break a bone and I'd go,
Here we go again.
I know that's broken. I'll go to the hospital and get that sorted. Not, oh my God, this is the end. Like, what am I going to do? It's more of a case of, oh, this is the second or third time this year.
Yeah, this is the next one.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then the energy levels and all the sorts that go with it as well. Again, testosterone plays a huge part in energy. And that was another thing that I found. I would have like waves of energy, or at one point I remember when I was playing basketball when I was a bit younger, and it was the intensity of basketball was so high. And as a young teenager or young adult, you naturally would think, oh, you've got a lot of energy here. And I was relying on Lucozade. I used to probably drink about 12 bottles of Lucozade Energy a week.
Really, yeah.
And yeah, obviously there's concerns of, you can develop diabetes up later on, but I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking, how am I going to get myself through the day, and how am I going to get myself through training and all sorts. And then, like cloudy, like foggy brain and all sorts.
It's funny actually. We did a podcast with Dr. Anand Patel, and we were talking exactly around this because that's his specialist area is testosterone deficiency, testosterone therapy for men, TRT, and this is all the stuff he kind of talked about and how important that hormone is for us and all of our hormones for that matter. So let's kind of go all the way back then to not where it all started, but I don't know. And it's different for you now, isn't it? Because you can look back and you say, okay. But tell us the story, kind of how did kind of things develop?
So it's definitely been a very up and down journey, because especially with the emotion side to everything, the hypersensitivity, which again, a word I didn't know until 3 years ago was a thing. So I kind of grew up, I was really lucky growing up, amazing family, really well, kind of like everything that you would need naturally to kind of get to places and that stuff. It was all really well provided for, and I'd never change that for the world. But at the same time, it was a challenge because even though all these great things were happening, I felt alone. I felt left out. I was like, why is the world against me? My emotions used to drop all over the place. And so growing up, I was almost like a people pleaser. I felt it was very important to me to make everybody else happy. And my dad always says a really good story where, like, whenever we'd go out, we go to pubs and restaurants, or we go to family parties, or we just go to places that I've never met people, and I would spend more time talking to the adults than I would to the children, like the people my own age, because I just go and talk and just be like, I'm here, like, listen to me, or what do you want to talk about? So I found a lot of the time I was bouncing between groups at school. I never had a group of friends at school. I was an in-betweener. So when the In-Betweener movie came out, I was just like, I'm one of those four.
I think every bloke related to one of those four, didn't they?
Yeah. And
Which one are you?
No comment.
I think I'm Neil with the dance. But yeah, it was one of those. So obviously growing up, and then I was just trying to figure things out, and my concentration at school wasn't good. It was a case of I'll go away with the fairies at some point, but I really want to learn. But I just couldn't retain the information, and it drove me mad. And then I found I had an amazing English teacher, a guy called Mr. Bryant. He was, funnily enough, he was dyslexic as well. So the way that he taught us was through diagrams, colours, pictures, and this was in English.
Oh, cool.
So if something so simple like when you're looking at, like basic English, when you're looking at a paragraph, he would draw a picture of somebody jumping from one level to another level as a paragraph, as a jump. So I remembered when I was then writing in my GCSEs and things like that, I was remembering what the images were for me to then be able to complete it.
Yeah.
And it was all a case of like everything I would have to visually look at. And then that's how I've grown up from there, as I've learned, and I've kind of taught myself a way of learning. And then I found that outside of like the learning world and the sports, again, I just suddenly grew. When I was younger, I was probably one of the shortest when I joined secondary school, and then ended up being one of the tallest when I left. And it was because I had it was about, I think it's 42 centimetre growth spurt in secondary school.
That's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
It was that and painful.
Yeah.
And I went to see a doctor for that as well, because my back was in agony, and he said, look, just think of a fishing rod and flip it the other way around. And he said, that's basically your top of your body is the heavy part of the fishing rod, and your back stretched and all sorts. And again, he put it into picture form, and I understood it. So yeah, I felt like I was very left out, and then I had real issues with my mental health as well, and I got myself into some really dark, horrible places, and it was so difficult to escape them. And I know when you have conversations with people and they say, we're here to support you, we love you, and part of me knew that, but then the other part of me fought against myself to believe that.
Yeah.
And then if I got myself into a really bad place, I just felt like that was it, that was the end. And there's been a couple of times in that process where, I was like, I really want this to end.
Wow. And this was when you was like teenager?
This was like late teens.
Yeah.
Where, because everything I did was just so exhausting, I was so tired all the time. And then because my bones and joints were weaker when I was playing basketball at such a high intensity and other things, I was just trying to be active, I got really bad knees, and I had at one point got diagnosed with chronic patella tendonitis in both my knees, and it just felt like I was walking on glass all the time. It was horrible. So and again, because of the hypersensitivity, it was, I could wake up in the morning and be really happy, but as soon as I felt the pain, I hit the floor. And I was like, this is going to be my day, this is going to be my week, this is going to be my month. And then it took 5.5 years for it to get to end,
Okay.
because I then got put onto a specialist in the hospital who was amazing, who said, I'm going to try something that isn't normal, as a PRP injection. So they basically withdraw a large amount of blood, they spin it out, they find what they call the golden liquid, which is your body's natural anti-inflammatories. They then take that out, and then they basically inject that straight into the affected area.
Wow.
Oh, right.
Did it work?
Yeah,
Really?
it did, yeah. And again, like finding out about the KS, finding out that they found a way to fix it and stop the pain,
Yeah, yeah.
because there's the amount of times I wanted to stop the pain, but not in a
Yeah.
positive way, of course.
Yeah.
So I was battling with all of that, body just breaking are the most ridiculous things, having all sorts of different opportunities where I thought, oh, maybe it's just a phase I'm going through. I just thought this could be a phase. It was the longest phase of my life.
Yeah, that sounds tough. Yeah.
And then I found the reason that I found out about me having KS was because obviously, you know, when you're with your partner and you're going through certain things, I don't know how explicit I can be.
Explicit as you want to be.
This
The
is
more, the more, the better in some ways, because actually, it's you know
Yeah.
we want to break stigmas and we want to talk about stuff. So
Perfect. Well,
whatever you want to share, or,
basically, when it came to the point of finishing, it was very painful
right?
and it actually hurt. And it wasn't every time, but it was a lot of the time. And you know, sometimes it happens. You're like, oh, it's probably just this time. I'll pass it off. But again, that was going over a long period of time, and I was like, oh, probably really should speak to someone about
Yeah,
this.
this isn't. Yeah.
And were you
Yeah.
getting any performance issues as well, like getting and maintaining erections or anything like that? Was there any
It was-
issues around that?
It was ups and downs again because it.
Excuse the pun.
I like that. That's good. We need to clap on that one.
Oh no, wrong button. Oh, forget it. I just don't know where the buttons are anymore.
No, he's lost his.
Let's lost its name.
But yeah, it was exactly that. It was a thing where I get stress was probably the biggest factor on my growing up, and anxiety to a point. But I got anxiety around being stressed,
Yeah.
and that would stress me out. That I was anxious.
Like that's a vicious circle. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
and was
Yeah.
that stress because you weren't fitting in, you weren't doing well at school, you were taller than everyone else?
Yeah.
It was just all of that.
The amount of pain I was in as well. Like, it's amazing to think back how much pain I was in, but I would put on a very good fake front, and I
Don't we all sometimes?
yeah, and it's quite scary to think that the amount of times I probably could have resolved getting a lot of stress and anxiety out if I just openly spoke about how I was feeling.
But instead, it's just in your head, and you're just stuck in your own brain, kind of thing at that point. Isn't you?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was. Yeah, when you always like they say hindsight, and you look back,
Sure.
you're like, oh, God, I wish I did that. I wish I did that. But at the time, I don't feel like I believe nothing could have helped me. And yeah, it's just a constant battle. So with that as well, the stress, the anxiety, even though in my head I'm like, oh wow, we're about to do it. This is so exciting. But it almost like stopped there. And I was like, oh, this is not good, because now the other person's going to think that there could be the problem, and never has that ever been the case. It's always been my problem, and I'll admit it. I'll be like, I'm so sorry, like that's my fault. But there's only so many times you can say I'm so sorry, that's my fault, before they go, that's enough now.
Yeah.
So with that as well, and then I just thought I probably should go see a doctor about this. So I went and saw a doctor, and I don't know if it was the luck of the draw or the fact that he knew Shafi, but he tested me for all the normal things, and then he went, I want to refer you to Rohrbakh's urology department, because there's somebody there who I think could be good for you to speak to.
So did you go and see Shafi privately then? So Shafi Wardak, who's a urologist, and
Yeah.
he's been on the podcast.
Amazing.
Lovely
Yeah, he's a
bloke.
top guy.
Yeah. So did you go and see him privately, or was this through the NHS?
This was through the NHS.
Yep.
So the doctor I had, he referred me through the NHS.
And was this because of your like ejaculatory pain and
Yeah.
erectile dysfunction sort of things? It's like go and see a urologist.
Yeah, because
Okay.
he did the full check anyway, and then obviously he did the testicular tests as well. And he was, and you could almost, now looking back at it again, you could almost see like the cogs turning in his head, and it makes a lot of sense now what he was saying. And so he sent me over to Shafi, and I met him, and immediately he went, right, first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a blood test, I'm going to do a DNA test. And he did that, and then it came back, and he saw me quite quickly, quite regularly. So in the space of a few weeks, over a couple of months, I'd already seen him 3 times. And the second time I went back as well, after him doing some more tests on the first one, he came back and said, right, okay, so done the DNA test, and your chromosomes are XXY. And I went, oh, okay, what's that? And then he explained to me, and he said, oh, well, it's something that we call Klinefelter syndrome. Happens in 1 in 600 men. It usually happens to people who are slightly taller as well. And then we basically just went through the details of it. And then he said, and you could have weaker bones, ligaments, muscles. You'd probably find that you might injure yourself more, might be in a bit more pain. He said that you can usually have effects with your sight and your hearing, your memory. You might be a bit like a foggy brain or things like that. And then he said you'll probably struggle with like putting weight on or all sorts, and your energy levels are low. And I was literally, I can't believe you just said every single symptom I've ever had over my entire life.
Yeah.
And you've just said it right there. And then immediately I kind of got like this goosebump feeling of, oh, there might be a chance that I'm not just a very irregular person who's had all these issues, and there's actually something
There's a
going
reason
on.
of what's going on. Yeah.
And
That
then-
must have been a weird moment for
Yeah, I
you,
bet,
because
yeah.
So
there must
weird.
have been a huge relief knowing that there was a reason.
yeah.
But then there's like, okay, I've got this thing. Like, what does this thing mean?
I got so emotional.
Yeah.
Like it was really weird to say that, because obviously where they say it comes from as well, because they say it comes from both your parents. It's just that it's an unfortunate luck of the draw. It's like the chances of it happening are so rare, but it comes from both sides. So then at one point my mum and dad were like, oh, we've done this to you. And I was like, no, that's not the case, ever gonna be the case. It's just something that happens, but it's now we know what's going on. Now we can all deal with it and kind of get through the process as well. And so everybody important in my life has been absolutely fantastic, especially more so finding out what's going on and how we can support, and it making a lot of sense and all sorts. Because yeah, I've done some ridiculous stuff over my life where, because of my mood changes and all sorts, where I've kind of caused myself permanent injury. And now I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. Yeah.
A bit of testosterone and that would have been fine.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then Shafi was fantastic when he, went through like the additional processes, which I'm sure we'll speak about in a sec, but he drew everything for me. He put it into diagrams. And that's why I think he's also fantastic, is he just put it into perspective, but how I understand it.
Right.
And I was like, you're an amazing
Yeah.
human being. Thank you.
He is quite a legend.
Such a lovely, lovely bloke.
Yeah.
And how many other doctors or medical appointments had you been through before you got to him? Because like you said, you've broken bones like, countless times, you've torn ligaments,
Yeah.
you're having this pain, depression, anxiety.
I couldn't tell you an exact number. The amount of times I went to hospital for broken bones and all sorts. I went to see doctors about, I was diagnosed with depression. I was diagnosed with like suicidal tendencies and all sorts because of the way that my emotions were going. They would obviously just want to prescribe me medication, which, to be honest with you, again, because of the way my brain was functioning, I didn't take it. I couldn't take it, because to me because they say it gets worse before it gets better, I didn't trust the it's getting worse part. I was petrified of what my brain would make me do if, before the medication works.
I
Right,
see,
yeah, 'cause
because
you're
you're already
already-
in this place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
So I refused to take it. They prescribed it, but I'd never take it.
To be honest, probably not a bad thing, actually, because we know now that you didn't need that.
Yeah.
Actually, that wouldn't have been any benefit to you anyway, really.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So I had that. No one ever suggested anything about checking the DNA. Everything was, you've got a calcium deficiency, or you might have just naturally been born with weaker ligaments, tendons and bones. No one ever thought about anything extra apart from this doctor that I saw at my local GP surgery. And obviously he knew exactly where to send me.
Right. But was that doctor, so was that just a GP?
Yeah.
But so was that GP a specialist in men's health, or was he just referring you because of the pain on ejaculation?
I don't think he was a specialist in men's health. I think he was referring me on pain, but he was the only doctor, even though I obviously specifically gone with this pain I was getting, but he was the only time I feel like genuinely someone actually paid attention to me to look at more than just the initial issue. What else could there be going on? He was, I don't think he's a specialist though, and I'm actually kind of annoyed myself because I can't genuinely remember his name, but I have a terrible memory because of obvious reasons. But I always say I've got a memory of a sieve or a memory of a goldfish, and it is the case because I really wanted to remember his name for this, but
Bless him. He'll know who he is.
Yeah, he'll know.
But I was just curious because obviously all of these different things now all fall into place because you got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
But it sounds like nobody was joining the dots. And I just wonder if that GP joined the dots or whether they were just referring you to urology because you have an ejaculatory problem, so it needs to be seen by urology. And then it was Shafi who was like, yeah, we know what this is likely to be. So,
I always believe it was luck of the draw to a point. I did see cogs turning because when he was checking for stuff, he wasn't just checking for like the initial pain of where the pain comes from. He was checking other things. And he did run blood tests and things. I don't know the results of those blood tests, but he did run other things.
Did he get his hands on your testicles, that GP?
He did indeed. Yeah,
How was that?
That was interesting.
but that could have been a red flag as well.
What it is, because if you look at the symptoms of KS, you look at all the symptoms of KS, and that's the first thing I did as well was, the size of them and things like that. And that's what I thought, again, is this just genetically me or is this something? And then I looked at it, and it's the first thing that comes up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
So smaller, harder testicles, isn't
it?
Yeah.
And it was
harder or softer? It's harder. Isn't
harder,
it?
It's smaller, harder, yeah. And that was the thing as well. It was just a massive sense of relief.
What relief. Like to have gone through like all what you went through in your teens right up to the point when you was 30 to be diagnosed.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That's a really long time.
And I've always been told, and I've looked at, again, obviously Google and the NHS website and even some specialist websites, and I've followed some pages, and all of them say there's 5 stages to KS, and you pretty much have gone through all of them up until the age of 30. And I was like, oh, great. I've gone from all of them, and now I've finally hit 30. I was like almost like really late to the show.
Yeah.
But even with all of that being said, and the definitely very adventurous journey I've been on, I couldn't be happier now knowing this. And then if there's a way that I can get in there early with other people and make sure like they just go and get tested, if they've got one of the things I've had, just go, then that would be amazing. If I can help one person after all this and stop them from going what I've gone through, I'd be one of the happiest people on this planet.
Yeah, because there could be another 16-year-old like you that's suffering right now, and there quite likely will be. And
exactly.
Yeah, if you can help change that outcome for someone, they haven't got to endure what you've gone through over the 30 years, isn't it? And it, makes a big difference.
And I'm very grateful for like certain people in my life. I've got some amazing friends who, some of them know, some of them don't know that they've saved my life. I've told a couple of them they don't think they can still get that through their head, and it's just the most like random things, like surprising, a text message from a certain person saved my life, and it couldn't have been closer if we tried.
Really?
And I find that amazing, and he knows who he is.
Yeah.
He's also hilariously taller than me.
Is he? He's taller than you?
He makes me seem small.
And you're how tall?
I'm 6'6". Now I'm between like 6'6", 6'7".
He's
6'10".
Is he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's amazing. He's such a great guy, and he's been a mate of mine for a very long time through basketball, ironically.
Yeah.
And then in my partner as well, she's been amazing, like through the whole process as well, because we've gone through then the next process. So obviously our journey's kind of like taken a pause recently. But she has also then had to go through the female version just to make sure that we could possibly have something working for us.
Because how long have you been with your partner then?
A few years now.
How long? 2 years?
A few.
A few.
Yeah, a few.
You're not
years.
sure? A few. That's a bit vague.
Well,
this is on tape.
Yeah, we go for official dates.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting because I've known her for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's been a case of like always being able to just be open and talking to her about everything that's been going on, and then through kind of the years we've realised, we'd actually be really good together.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
And it's just worked really well, and she's been amazing. So having that support through the whole process, and then for her to be able to actually then go through the process herself to make something happen for us, because I was told originally that, Declan, you can't have children, like there's just no chance. We're going to take you through the process, like tick box exercise almost, so you've been through that process. And they did the microtesia, so the sperm retrieval. But going into that, it was a case of this isn't going to happen for you. We're not going to find anything, but we're going to take you through the process. I went through the process and they found some sperm. Right. And they're like, it's a very, very tiny amount, but they look like they're moving, so we're going to freeze them for you. Wow. So they did that. And then that was an interesting story because I had the operation, came around, still very much off my face, off all the anesthetic, and then had a phone call saying, we can't freeze your sperm because your blood results for whatever they have to make sure are clear ran out the day before.
Oh, it's the viral screening. Like HIV.
Yeah. So you need to come now to have the blood test so we can send off emergencies so we can freeze your sperm. So then Lou navigated me somehow to the car within about an hour of coming out of the...
After a micro-teasy?
Yeah.
I don't envy you on that, man. Yeah, that's
painful experience. Yeah. I don't remember half of it. She remembers everything. Apparently it was hilarious.
Of course it was.
And then we managed to get to the TFP Maidenhead, who are amazing as well, by the way. That fertility clinic is unbelievably good. Everyone was so sweet there. And then between a few of them navigated me into the room to have the blood test done. And then at some point I made it home.
Right. I bet she was stabbing the brakes up and down the road, wasn't she? Let's laugh with this.
That was an interesting one. But again, then we found out. Then I think it was a week later. Then they did like a proper examination again to say, we think there might be a few more than what we originally said. And then we waited a bit of time, and then Lou went through the egg retrieval process. So again, her body was pumped through with lots of hormones, and that was not a fun experience for her, of course. And then, they managed to combine both sperm and egg, and now we have an A and a B embryo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
On ice.
On ice, yeah.
Because the last time we spoke, I think you was just working up to that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When you was in here last.
Exactly, yeah.
And wow.
We've managed to be successful at having an A and a B.
That's incredible.
So they were like, out of everything that's gone on and how minimal there was to work with, you've managed to come out with the top grade and the second best grade of embryo ready as and when you want to go for it.
Have they done genetic testing on them or not?
No, they haven't done genetic testing. So there was an extra we could have was the genetic testing. But the only risk with that is because we only have the two. They also say that there's a risk of possible damage. So they said if you had a few of them, we could test one or two, and they usually kind of can tell if the rest of them are going to be okay. But because we just have the two, we're like, it's a bit like we've gone through all this so far.
Don't mess with them.
The last thing we want to do is that. But it's also one of those things where we know that we could support whatever comes from it. We'll be fully supportive and make sure everything's there. And we've got two amazing families that are going to support us as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just great. Such a relief.
Yeah. That's a big step.
When did the fertility talk start in amongst all of this?
So that was quite quick, actually. Within the KS, finding out, and then the fertility side of things, because of where we were at with it, and where obviously they knew that there was no way we could try and conceive without having to do this. That sped it up a lot. It was just then a choice of when would Lou want to start the embryo side of things. And then that was just a case of like, I say body and mentally preparing for it. I would say it probably kicked off maybe a year after.
Okay. But kind of before that, when you'd had your diagnosis, or maybe even before your diagnosis, had you and Lou been talking about kids? Was that even on the agenda? Had you even thought about your fertility?
No. I thought there were some occasions where I thought it was a bit suspicious why no one had got pregnant.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. Then now looking about, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why. Because again, I went through some of the tests and obviously did the test within the carp, and they were like, you got. That's also when I found out. Sorry, similar time was within that process the azoospermia.
Yep.
And that was again another massive word that I was like, what is that? And obviously that's no sperm in the semen. And I was learning about that side.
When was that then in the timeline?
So that was just before. So that was the test that Shafi had organised for me to also do. So it was a blood test and a semen sample analysis.
Yeah.
And that was then going back. So the blood test came back with the XXYKS, and then the semen sample came back saying it was azoospermia. And even though I know he could have put 2 and 2 together, I assume that was the confirmation for him, like, yes, this is that. So that was also quite early on in the process of the diagnosis.
So that must have been quite a big one to get your head around as well. So you got this realization that your whole life has been down to this syndrome.
Yeah.
You've now got the relief that I know what this is.
Yeah.
And actually there's some treatment plans for it.
Yeah.
Oh, but also you've got no sperm.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, Christ, like how do you process that?
Get hit with a hammer and again, and
then get up and go, yay, and then get hit with another hammer.
I tell you what, through the mental journey I went on before with just me going through physical pain and where I got myself to, it was a really weird journey, because it was the relief of, there's something wrong with me, but there's actually like a reason for it.
Yeah.
And then there was the, oh God, there's something wrong with me. I can't do the thing I've always dreamed about doing. And people who know me but didn't know through the situation, because I kept that very close to heart. I kept that between my parents and then Lou, and I let my siblings know as well. But that was a difficult conversation. It wasn't the conversation of telling them I've got KS. It was me realizing when I was telling them that I can't naturally, or at the time, because I wasn't told. I was told then that you definitely can't have them. So at the time it was, you can't naturally be a dad. And I've always dreamed of naturally being a dad at the time. And then everyone, family, friends, always used to, and even like friends of friends will say, Dec's amazing with kids. Like, you've been an amazing dad. And all this stuff. And you keep hearing that. And then going through the process and still hearing that, I was like, just kick me while I'm down.
There's some salt in it.
I was like, great. But now we've gone through the process and I come to that realization. It's that relief of, there's a chance, of course, but we can, almost weirdly to say, we can choose when to do it under the process of, we have now that control, which is a good thing. Because naturally, like obviously when people have children, they say, there's no good time, there's no bad time to do it. It just happens. But at least with everything going on at the moment, there's an opportunity for us to be like, we can almost pick a good time to go through the process. And we also know the middle of the year, there's not many birthdays, so it's a good time for it to happen. But yeah, it is one of those things. But yeah, it has been really tough. Again, got myself into a really dark place at one point with it, because it was almost like, remember all those dreams you had? Yeah, they're gone. Oh, great. Cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah. So yeah, it's been an odd one. Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
No, for sure. No. Has the obviously you've had testosterone replacement therapy to help.
Yeah.
Has that helped your mindset as well? Like, because obviously having a low testosterone, of course, can cause all sorts of mental issues like that. So obviously you've gone through a very difficult phase of trying to get clarity on what your future might look like at that point. But I'm assuming Shafi got you treated quite quickly with the testosterone replacement. So then did that actually help you process the whole thing better?
Definitely. Again, I don't know if it will be quite controversial me saying this, but I'll say it anyway.
Too right.
So the TRT has been amazing. It's given me energy. Apparently my mindset and my general, I say attitude in a good way, but it's changed because I'm a lot more chilled out now. So everyone who knows me now goes, Dec, you're a lot more chilled out person. And it's because I always feel like I have that control between emotions.
Right.
Whereas if I feel like I'm going to start getting a bit upset or get a bit angry, I remind myself how exhausting that feeling is. And I almost shut myself off to that and just go like, just relax instead. Or I'm really happy.
Yeah.
And then I've been able to retain weight because it would just fall off me. Or if I stopped training, that was it. Goodbye weight. Great. Now I've got to start again. It was like, we'll start again. So that my eating has gone up, but I eat a crazy amount of food. It's insane. I drink loads of water. My let's say energy levels go up, which means then my memory gets a bit better. But then I do notice it as well, more so now, that if I'm feeling really tired, the first thing that goes is I can't remember what I did yesterday. That's usually the first thing. And then again, also when I was growing up, I forgot to say, I had issues with my speech. I still have a few issues with my speech as well, where my brain's working faster than my mouth is. So I know I want to say stuff, but I couldn't physically get the words out.
Okay.
Now there seems to be a slight delay with it catching up for me to then be able to speak. Otherwise, I speak really quickly, and I can do that.
It's not a bad thing. Some of us shoot our mouths off before our brains work, so you know,
get you in trouble. That
it really does get me into trouble, definitely.
Yeah,
it's fascinating though. Yeah, it's fascinating that that's done that. I mean, I only know you in the last few months.
Yeah.
And you seem like the most chilled horizontal guy, so it's hard for me to understand what previous.
It was literally a case of like, it was just amazing how fast it would switch. And that was the thing that scared me, was the switch. And because, so this is the controversial bit, because of I know how much it switched before, I'm genuinely terrified if they take me off TRT. If for whatever reason it stops, I can't, it just scares the hell out of me. Because if I went back to what I was like before, or what the drop will do, if they take the TRT away or they change it or whatever the case may be, if it wasn't going to be as effective as what it is now, it's what happens when it goes down. And does it go down further past the point before it comes back up to what almost having no testosterone
I guess that's
like?
Quite a natural anxiety to have after all you've been through, really. You've just got you've got your past 30 years of life to look back at that, haven't you? To say, it's a natural anxiety to have, I'm sure. But
so it's a very scary thought, and I try not to think about it. But then every time I put my repeat prescription in for the doctors, like I did one recently, weirdly enough, that dread of the 24 or 48 hours turnaround, that's probably the most stressed I am, because I'm thinking, please accept this. Like, I need this, and I need to go get it. And it's a weird thing to say. It's an addictive attitude to take towards TRT, but it is, because it's life-changing feeling for me and knowing what I've gone through. So I'm lucky on the flip side of that, the support I have of people knowing in home life, friends life and work life, it's a real good circle of we got you. You're right.
How's things been with because you mentioned that you've got great parents, you've had a great upbringing, etc. Like obviously you've had conversations with your parents now about those kind of things. So how's that reaction been with your parents? I'm just curious to know from a parent perspective how that's been for them.
Good relief for sure. Obviously the upset of them thinking it was their fault, trying to take them away from that part and now handling it now. But mum and dad have been absolutely fantastic, understanding and taking the time to learn, and then being adaptable. Same with my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. Like, they've all been really, really supportive, and just knowing how to kind of approach and talk to me. And it's not like treating me like something special, but it's just that knowing that
awareness, right?
Yeah, it's the awareness, exactly that. But being on TRT makes me feel like a normal person. It was that gap in between of finding out, not being on TRT, thinking, oh, how do we work this?
Yeah,
But it's just like, just work with me until we get on the TRT, because I trusted Shafi straight away. And if he said it was going to work, it was going to work. So I went with that, as in, like, if I'm believing this, you guys should believe this, because I usually don't trust anything until it's in writing. Like, that's how my brain still functions. So they have, just been there in I just know that I could call my dad, or I could call my mum, or call my sister, or call my brother, or even my brother-in-law, sister-in-law. I know I could genuinely just pick the phone up to them. And if I'm feeling a bit weird about something, or I just want to ask them a question which probably has absolutely no relevance to anything, but in my head it's very relevant to something, they'll be like, yeah, of course, we'll chat about it, or come round, have some dinner. Like, brother would be like, oh, let's go play golf, or let's go to the pub. Or my sister, my brother-in-law, they love like cooking, they're great hosts, they'll go over to theirs and have a good old host. And like, everyone's like really inviting in there. Mum and dad, again, do anything. Dad will just go sit in a cinema with him and watch a movie. But to me, that's perfect. And he knows that works really well for me. Again, mum makes some great dinners and some cracking cakes as well. So
sounds like it all revolves around food.
Sounds good to me. That I'm a foodie.
I always said, if I get paid in food, I'll be so happy. It'll be fantastic. And then Lou's been so adapted to it as well. She's been absolutely fantastic. And again, it's just an easy conversation. If I'm feeling a bit low, she just knows what the right thing to say is to lift me back up again. I'm very lucky with that.
It sounds like it's bonded you. Sorry, it sounds like it's actually bonded you more. I think these sort of challenges, if we can call it challenges, I suppose, can kind of make or break a relationship, but actually just proves just how great she is to you and you to her, and
so
that's
good.
really nice to hear. Yeah,
So good.
But it sounds like that support's been really good since you got your diagnosis, because everyone now understands. You understand, they understand.
Yeah.
What about before? What about in your 20s, mid-20s, and you're in your darkest days? Was there support? Were you talking to people then, or
there was support from them, but confusion as well, and I completely understand it. I think the hardest thing to keep up with was the switches in my mood. I remember a day which is probably one of the hardest days that I will never forget, and it's not a good thing, it's a bad thing, but my mum had been to one of her best friend's funerals, and I had forgotten that had happened. And she had come home and she was really upset, and my dad had come home, obviously, with her from the funeral. She was really upset by it. And it was a very difficult year anyway. We had a lot of deaths in that year with family members and friends and all sorts. But I came downstairs for some reason. I was at home. I came downstairs and I said something, and it probably wasn't the greatest thing to say at the time. And obviously, being the nature of where mum had been, she got really upset. And because I knew I had made her upset, the immediate thing that my brain told me to do was to punish myself, to be like, you're a horrible person, why have you done that? So I stormed out the kitchen, went up the stairs, and before I got to the top of the stairs, my temper just switched, and I just lost my temper, and I punched the top of the stairs in a downward motion. And as I did that, I shattered my hand. So half my hand is made of metal now.
no way.
And I did that. I hurt my hand, broke my hand, then took myself to the bedroom and sat in pain, punishing myself.
Right.
And in my head, that was how I would resolve issues if I was to upset people, because I'd always wanted to be a people pleaser.
Yeah, you said yeah.
And that was how my brain functioned. And it wasn't just then, that's how my brain has functioned through pretty much all of my teenage life. So it was about of how do I inflict pain on myself to punish myself so, I could take that away from other people.
Yeah.
So then obviously I made what was a bad day into a worse day, because then again, my dad wasn't happy at the basis that I just shattered my hand, and now this is going to be a process we have to go through. And not only that, I was playing really good basketball. I was doing well, and that was my right hand I did, and I'm right-handed. So not only did an instant of just a stupid decision upset some of the most important people to me and upset them, but also I probably disadvantaged myself in something else later down the line. So that, and I will never forget that, because that was just the one thing where it's probably the most disappointed I've ever been in myself. And I always remember back to that day. So anything then after that, if I ever felt myself getting close to that point, to remember how bad that was. And that was the only way I could almost program myself away from doing something so ridiculous.
Right, okay, yeah.
That was before I found out about the KS and then the testosterone and chilling me out. So if you take that as the worst case scenario, and then minus the fact that obviously there was occasions where I took myself to some incredibly dark places, I have no idea how amazing, or how my parents have managed to be so incredible through the whole process, because no one knew where my mind was going to be going and where my emotions would be going. And it was just an absolute roller coaster for them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Then my siblings catching up with it, going, some of the time they didn't know half the stuff that was going on, because mum and dad decided it's probably not a good idea they know, because we don't want to scare them. And then I'd say a large majority of the time, no one knew what was going on, because I just wouldn't tell them, because I was so disappointed in myself, so upset. And the last thing I want to tell my parents is, oh, by the way, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, it's just horribly upsetting. So if I was wearing a hat, I'd take it off to them, because they've been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, but I take my hat off to you as well, because it's, you've done a lot of selfless things in that whole process.
Yeah, but
and you've gone through a hell of a lot. Like that's a very difficult, it's a difficult few years that. And credit to you really for how you've managed it, despite all of what's, obviously what's going on. So
what about work? Kind of like, how do you build a kind of career or a vision in terms of what you want to do for a living if you're kind of dealing with pain and anger and depression?
Exactly that.
And low mood and all that.
It's been difficult. I think trying to make people happy and trying to help people be better, that's a good way of putting it, is what I've liked to try and do. So like working through Tesco's, it was customer service based, but I wanted to go into management because I wanted to be able to then help people develop and be better versions of themselves if I could. Great. I've had good experience watching my mum, my dad, my brother and sister do it really well, and being able to be in positions that are very similar to that and helping people in a great way. And so I thought, oh, I'd love to do that myself. So I went into that, and then I thought, oh, a good way I could do this, going to HR. So I did my level 3 CIPD, and I thought that was really well, and I thought I'll go into a HR job. And then I started in a HR job for a few months, and I got a call from a guy called Paul Smith, and he said, oh, seen your CV, seen like what you've done, we'd love to have an interview with you. We're a recruitment company. And I thought, oh, recruitment, I don't know, but yeah, I'll give it a go. I'd love a conversation, meet new people. That's how I saw it. So I went over and I had an interview with Paul Smith, Dave Holby-Walensky, and Patrick Graham. And there's the 3 owners of a company called Ellis Knight. And I remember sitting in a little tool table in a cafe underneath an Regis building. The thing is, I remember the most ridiculous things sometimes, and I remember some really important things. I don't remember them and all sorts, but I remember this. And then I had such a cool conversation with them. They're just 3 really nice guys who had started a recruitment company where it was thinking about the people in the company. You weren't just a number. You were a recognized human being who we actually cared about and wanted to, you know, look after and do well and help you progress. And that is me. So I was like, that's amazing. So
chimes well, yeah.
Yeah, and I had the interview, and I remember this was Junction 12 of the M4. It was the Arlington Business Park, where we are basically here. It's just the other side. That's where my career started in recruitment. Right. And I remember I got in the car, drove down, literally on the junction, straight back down the M4, and as I was driving down, Paul called me and he said, look, Dec, we really liked everything we hear. We want to offer you the job. Take the night to think about it. And I was like, I can take the night to think about it, but I know the answer I'm going to tell you now is going to be exactly the same tomorrow, and that is a big fat yes, please. I'd love to work for you guys because of what you do. And then through the entire process, it's been fantastic. They have looked out for me the whole way. Progression-wise is about development of the person progression. Positions are obviously important, but you get to positions because of who you are and how you function as a person, and that was their main focus. It was how can we help you to help them, and them being every candidate I've ever spoken to try and help them get a job. And then obviously COVID hit. That was a fun time. And obviously just under the circumstances, the way that my brain functioned was right now, COVID's a bit of fun. It's really causing disruption. People aren't getting jobs. People are losing jobs. Companies are closing down. EK was a small company, but we had a great portfolio of businesses, but businesses still in the same process. So, and I wanted to expand my knowledge, try some tech recruitment. So I thought it's actually quite good timing. If I can step away and the guys don't then have to pay for me in the company, which means some money that can go back into the company and save, I can also go out and get some tech recruitment experience. And I did that about 18 months. And then I had a conversation with Patrick and I said, look, I'm in this position now and I'd love to come back to Ellis Knight, which is then called Disrupt. Recruitment, we had an amazing conversation and we had it in KFC. Junction 11, the M4.
Great meeting place.
Yeah. It's so
Bucket
good.
of chicken.
Yeah, because again, with those guys, I was known as the giant who loved to eat food. And then, yeah, we had that chat and then I came back and then that's been nearly 2 years now. 2 years and a couple of months I've been back with them, and it's Disrupt and it's includability, and everything that they do is about how can we help people, like every day us getting jobs, but also how do we help people that may not be in an opportunity where they feel like somebody would interview them or a company would take them on board, and how can we work with them to make sure both the company and the candidate are basically reading off the same song sheet. And with that attitude towards candidates, it's been the same reflected upon myself. Patrick knows everything about me. I'm an open book with Patrick and Dave and Paul as well when I was working with Paul. Every time I had a hospital appointment, I had a blood test, I broke a bone, I ruptured a ligament, anything like that, I would call them and say, by the way, guys, I'm in hospital again. I'll log on tomorrow. I'll be on my laptop because it's probably like I've broken a bone and I've got other limbs that can function. And they would go, no, Dec, just, take the first few days, like, you've broken, you've injured yourself, relax. It's okay. We can still function. And then we'll welcome you back when you're ready. And it was supportive like that. It was always been a case of, Dec, if you need to go for a hospital appointment or you need to go do this, you need to just go and do it. Health is wealth. I'd always say, we can run, and we obviously it's a very, very good company, but we want you to be healthy to be able to work in the best way that you can, and we'll support you. And that's what it's been like the entire time.
Isn't that amazing?
That's awesome. So refreshing to hear, actually.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
yeah. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, yeah.
Because actually, if you'd been in a career, I don't know, let's say you've been in finance, you've been up in the city as a banker or whatever, something like that, and you were dealing with broken bones and depression and goodness knows what else, you'd have been out on your ear, wouldn't you? You'd have had no chance. Yeah,
they've provided platforms, opportunities for me to speak to professionals, experts all over the world that literally expertise in so many different areas of mental health and physical, let's say physical and mental abilities, different abilities. Don't call them disabilities, we call them abilities. It's almost like a superpower in a way, and it's how can we get other people to adapt and recognize that somebody with, could be anything, someone with autism or ADHD is just as good as somebody else with a different ability. And so, and just how do we make sure that's a recognizable thing, that it is okay to have these? Because you could be a fantastic person bringing an amazing ability into a company that can make it better, and you could be an amazing people person that can make other people better. So we work with recruitment and retention. It's probably the easiest way of describing it, with disrupt and includability. And yeah, they're just supportive inside of work and outside of work. And I think it's brilliant. I could not feel myself to be luckier to have met them. And
and this is the way it should be, and it's that men feel empowered to talk about their health openly and honestly, like, this is what I'm dealing with, this is why it's crap and whatever. But also, if they can do that in a work environment where they're then supported, rather than you're a bloke, shut up, get on with it, just man up, that horrible term, just shows what can be done. And like, you're now thriving and you've got a good career, and you know what's going on, you're on the right therapy. It's like, it's completely different, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. And there's never a day where they don't ask you how you are.
Nice.
Every time we see them in person, it's a hug. It's a lot of hugs, to be fair.
Sounds like good company.
Yeah. It's always a welcome.
Yeah.
It's just so friendly. It's about, how have you been? How was your weekend? Like, it's not just a case of you coming on a Monday and they go, oh, how was your weekend? It's a case of Monday to Friday, how was your evening last night? Oh, what are you guys doing tomorrow? What's this going on? It was paying an interest into your life, as well as how are we doing at work, and what can we do, and all that stuff. Like, that's a natural day-to-day in work thing to do. But having someone actually care about you outside, it just makes you want to talk to them more. I want, it sounds really weird to say, but if I've got an appointment to go to, I want to tell them, I'm going on an appointment, by the way, even though I know for certain now, Patrick will say, that's absolutely fine. You go do what you have to do, and then just come back when you're ready, because he knows we do the work anyway. It's not like we're not doing the work. And he trusts that. He's a very trusting person. And so is Dave, of course, as well. So you can't go wrong with it.
So nice. Awesome. Yeah, because how often, like, from the fertility perspective, certainly guys going through fertility journeys, how many of them just hide it from their bosses, go sick, take annual leave days and rest day swaps or whatever, because they don't feel empowered to talk to their bosses. And actually, that's not really the relationship anyone wants with their managers or the people they're employed by. Whereas you've got now something really special that you can be proud of, and I guess they've all of your previous experience makes you very valuable to them, and they value you, and hence why that's like that. And I think that's so reassuring. Any company director listening to this podcast right now, take note. Because straight up, this is exactly how life should be, right? We shouldn't ever be hiding from anything of what one's going through. And like your story, so empowering to a guy that is potentially on the road to the diagnosis that you've got. And we should all just support each other. Like, life should be more about that, right? It's so refreshing to hear. So that's really cool.
So what does the future hold? We've got 2 embryos in the freezer.
We do indeed,
What's coming up next?
So, obviously, ideally, if there's an opportunity, we'll absolutely jump on that and give it a go. And it is a case of, we'd say again, it's giving it a go, because there is no guarantees that even when you go through XXY, which is what we're going through, the form of IVF, there's still obviously the risks that it may not happen. And so I would like to say that we're 85% through the process, and this is the last 15%. And because the journey's been so up and down, and I've now managed to almost train my mind into being open about the outcome, and again, it is so weird to say this now after everything that's gone on, I will be okay with either outcome. It would be great if it happens, but if it doesn't, it's understandable. And Lou is exactly the same.
Nice.
We've both said that if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But there's other things we can do if we do really believe that we want to go ahead and still have children. And if it works, fantastic, it works. That's something that's ours, and it's in DNA ours. Fingers crossed I don't give them KS. But if I do, I can actually take them through the process. I can understand the things quickly. I can jump on it quickly. Regardless, I just want to be able to do that, not just if we have our own, but for anyone. I've got 4 nephews. And if one of them...
They'll all be getting the lecture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's straight on it to be like, when they get of an age, and there might be some things that happen with me that I think, or I'll say to my brother and my sister, look, just off kind of what you know,
I've got this.
It doesn't cost anything. Go just see if we can get them tested, just for something. Because if it is something that does come out and we can jump on it quickly, then they are definitely going to live a slightly different life to what I've lived. And that would be amazing. So yeah, I would say future-wise, for us, it's, absolutely, there's opportunities to go ahead. And then future-wise, outside of this as well, is I now really want to emphasize and push and help as many people as possible, just to be aware, just to get a test, go to doctors, pass around the information. I'll chew someone's ear off until they go. If they don't believe me, I'll take them there if I have to.
You come with me.
Well,
guarantee that you will have helped somebody, if not many men, just sharing your story with us today. And thank you so much. Such an open and honest and a kind of heartwarming story. And just love like your energy and just how, calm and I don't know, you just got a great energy about you in terms of where you are with it all. And we've got your back, and we will keep everything crossed for the next 15% of the journey, which may be not 15%, might be a lot longer of a journey in terms of, if it works and all that comes after that. But we will keep everything crossed for you.
No, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on here as well, to be able to just another, like a platform where people in this listen to. And I just want everyone to know it's normalised now. It's been, adventurous time, but
sure,
I'm more than happy to talk about it. I will talk to anyone about it because it's a day in the life of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. Honestly, thanks for being brave and thanks for being so open with us. And I just wish you from the bottom of my heart the very best, and fingers crossed for you both.
Thank you. No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Are you two going to beatbox us out? Go.
I don't know if we can.
It's hard to sync up beatboxing, I'll tell you that.
Well, who go first then?
I can go first. It's been a long time.
It is. All right, put you on the spot now.
Send us the outro, Declan, if you wish.
Oh, it's been a long time. I'm really sorry. I apologise in advance.
What the hell?
That was insane.
That was amazing.
Round of applause.
There we go.
I think that's the best outro. Maybe that's just our outro forever now. I mean, we should cut that out. And Declan's our constant outro.
Do that again. That was
Who'd
cool.
have thought?
Love it.
Well, mate, awesome. Thank you.
Test him out. Take care.
Test him out, yeah.